Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to GeekWatch, a subsidiary of the monastery, the open bar of the internet. I am your one and only gaming monk, better known as Mildra, and with me I have 1, 2, 3, 4 good brothers. Ha 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 ha! We have our flamboyant flyer and living Wikipedia, good brother Flutter.
Keone, Boris, and Uller can all go fuck off.
We have the man guiding you through all of your anime, and the man who just finished being the man-shaped spear. Good brother John. We have our resident Josh Alexander Mark. Good brother Monarch.
Look, he's fucking awesome. I don't even care. Best wrestler alive today.
And the man of 1,000 runes, the CEO of Zadari Enterprises, and the bane of my fucking existence, good brother Xanatrix.
Zadari Enterprises would like to remind you that, unlike a certain dramatard, we are building our own Kamen Rider division. And unlike Amatsugai, mine will be successful. Also, I own him, so it's not like he can make another one anyway.
And so obviously you can some of you can see the title and know what's going to be happening. For a lot of you, what we're going to be covering tonight is not exactly going to be treading new ground. However, this is something I've had in the back burner for quite a while, and after recent events, I felt I needed to accelerate my plans. I was going to be tackling that. We were going to be tackling this eventually. It's just I decided to call an audible and move things a bit ahead of schedule. So, the love that the temple has for VTubers is well stated.
I mean, we did have an entire GeekWatch about it.
One that apparently some fans of Pokemon got real mad at John when he posted that on Reddit.
Yeah, well, fuck you too. You know I'm right.
Because it seems that they took issue with us calling her little venture into VTubing inauthentic, which it was, much like everything else she does.
I was about to say Pokemon is inauthentic 100% of the time, so what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
About as authentic as her cookies.
Sweet.
And before any of her simps come after me, I am not a broke bitch. But I do want to make clear that the sole reason that I decided to jump things ahead was because, as I've mentioned many times, if I'm going to be tackling something on GeekWatch, I need a certain angle. Just talking about a given thing isn't quite enough. The last time we talked about VTubers, the angle was authenticity. What one might call the dam of legitimacy. The
thing that makes most VTubers compelling, I think, is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. In this particular case, once things I was beginning to notice a pattern, and that was what I built it upon. Thus, the name Discommunication: Nijisanji's Comedy of Errors. Now, obviously, when it comes to the VTubing scene, obviously the reigning king is Hololive via Covercore. Nijisanji has been in the second place for the longest time. Now, remember in one of your VTubers guides, John, you had made a quantity analogy, since around that time they were grabbing every talent that they could find.
And to an extent, they're still kind of doing that. Give me just 1 second here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're still kind of doing that. There's, Hololive tends to have a bit of time between new generation announcements. But that means that the announcements they have tend to be bigger because there's a lot more quality behind them. They've had time to build them up. Whereas Nijisanji tends to grab like short bursts of new talent almost all the time. Hell, and let's see, at the time we did when did we do the GeekWatch on VTuber?
Authenticity? I think that was 2 years ago at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I need to double check what's been going on with Nijisanji English since then, because that should give you an idea of how crazy things have gotten.
Doesn't Nijisanji EN have 6 groups now?
6, I think they've already got their 7th.
As a side note, what part of something I wanted to say about Covercore being number 1, besides the fact that they focus on quality over quantity most of the time, Cover also rabidly defends their talent. Most recent example being someone saying that, not even implying, actually saying that Hosho Marine is a pedophile. And Covercore coming out with an announcement that basically said, you might want to take that back before we sue your ass into oblivion.
Round?
Yeah.
Find out.
Yeah.
FAFO is a big thing with cover.
That
Oh,
it
yeah.
is.
That they are. You know, regardless of how you feel about certain situations like the Coco situation or Arushia or anything like that, you can clearly see that there's a lot of love for the talent at Hololive. That their management treats them good. They bend over backwards to help them out. Yagu loves his girls. It's very clear that that company is very well structured and they know what the fuck they're doing. It's the reason why they've been able to continually expand and explode onto the VTuber scene and still dominate it to this day, despite competition still popping up. I mean, I think at this point, the number 2, as far as English VTubers, I think the number 2 clearly goes to Vishojo.
Yeah, for the longest time, Nijisanji was, but it's gradually a case where V-Shoujo's been eating their lunch the last few years.
Yeah, hell.
I think
This involves Hololive, but Casey Edwards actually stumbled on a stream of Beboos. Yes, last night.
Casey Edwards, the composer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Was
You know why he?
active-
You know why he?
chatting
You know.
and was actively contributing in the chat.
You know why he was? It's because she's done a rearrangement of Bury the Light, a full one.
Yeah, he popped into her chat and they were talking with each other in her chat during her stream. It was really awesome. I saw a screenshot of it, so I can verify this.
Hold on, let me find it.
No.
Anyway,
But obviously this is going to be one of our more roasting kind of episodes, and I do want to make one thing very clear. Well, 2 things actually. First off, all of the liver talents, whether they be English, whether they be Indonesia, whether they be Japan, I'm putting you all in a bubble and I'm moving you right over here.
I would like to point out that while I'm glad you're moving them all into a bubble, the JP talents are probably the most well taken care of with any color. It's usually ID and EN that have issues with any color management.
yes, but as I will be demonstrating very shortly, they are not immune to this. The JP branch is not immune to this problem.
Of course. I'm not saying they're immune. They're just usually the best kept, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd like to say is I know that any color is at that notorious bout where they were going after YouTubers covering news. To that I say, try me, bitch.
Exactly.
Well, what they're gonna try to do, what they will attempt to do if they ever even discover this stream, is they will try to shut us down for the thumbnail. The splash screen that I so elegantly put together is likely going to be the target of their ire because it's copyrighted images.
Copyrighted images
bitch,
arranged.
Fair use, motherfucker.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
It's arranged. Everything is in a different context, and it's used as part of this reporting. So, and hello, Fizz Chozo Corner. Nice to see you.
It is transformative in the form of journalism.
Yep.
Yes.
But
So,
you know what would be really funny, John?
Oh.
If somehow Any Color finds this video and tries to shut it down, Streisand effect. This could be the video that blows the monk wide open. Phrasing.
But the point is, if Any Color decides to pick a fight, I will make as much noise as humanly possible and be the biggest nuisance.
As you should be.
You guys know how petty I can be.
We'll be joining you, so it's a clamor. It'll be a clanger.
Oh yeah. Now, I think a little bit of a context for those of you who are not familiar with Nijisanji should be in order, because when we talk about VTuber rabbit holes, Nijisanji is almost its own rabbit hole in and of itself.
I think at this point, just about any corporation has become its own rabbit hole. I mean, Face Connect alone, we could we could have a field day on. But yes, Nijisanji is definitely probably the deepest one.
Yeah, because they have they have probably at least close to 200 talents by this point between all their different branches. Like, just think about how massive that is. Hololive barely even has 100 between all of its branches. Nijisanji has close to double that.
Mm-hmm.
And Hololive only recently got that close.
Yeah. And that's probably really because of the fact that they added Holostars and then threw out like several waves of Holostars pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, they only got
Holostars EN.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure they only added 2 groups of Holostars EN.
Excuse me.
Still,
The Guilty Boys.
between that and Advent coming out. But anyway, back on track. Yeah. I'm actually double checking.
So, hey, Rick.
Mentions Advent, immediately thinks Bao Bao. Fuamoko are the new Gura. I'm not even lying.
I've heard. Anyway.
Also, you should be happy because Asamoko.
I saw that. I was like, oh. I'm assuming that they got in contact with Coco through some means because I'm pretty sure she still talks with the other girls.
Absolutely.
For that.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
So, hey, Rick.
So, yeah, we see Eric. Anyway, but yeah, for a little backstory, Nijisanji debuted while Anycolor and Ichikara had been around for a while. Nijisanji as a group really started around 2018, about a year after Hololive started becoming a thing. So when we say that they're the number 2 VTuber company in Japan, we mean it's legitimately. Like, when it comes to VTuber agencies that follow the Live 2D's format, Nijisanji was the second out the gate.
Mm-hmm.
And the big difference between Hololive and Nijisanji is, as we've joked about before, Hololive likes to see itself as more of an idol agency. It follows a lot of the same rules as idols. It does all the singing and dancing and everything like that. They have the big productions and everything. Nijisanji, while it does have some aspects of that, tends to look at itself more as a live streaming company.
Right.
It doesn't really enforce a lot of the idol culture onto itself. It's a little more open. It still follows more Japanese-style streaming rules, but it's still Japanese streamers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a little more lax with what their talents can talk about. They're a little more open to working with other companies. They're a little more, well, in most cases they are, let's be fair. Mm-hmm. And they're a little more just kind of, they're a little more hands-off with their talents unless problems arise. But but as today's video is going to show you, that might actually be part of the problem, is that they're a little too hands-off.
And the thing I've had to have my fair share of hands-on learning when it comes to running things. Even if I'm not running a business, I am running, of course, the brand that is Mildred the Monk.
Exactly.
And a big thing about that, and something that I have, and something that's been at the crux of me calling certain people out who I've had fallings out with, who I've mentioned in the past, and they know who they are. And one of them in particular, when I told that story to Lady K, she was not happy about how Zan and I were treated.
Mm-hmm.
Is
As
a matter of communication. That so many issues can be easily solved with proper communication and handling things through proper channels.
Yeah.
So, am I saying that it's a perfect solution? No, but at the very least, getting everybody on the same page can be absolutely vital. And
I would even go as far as to say that there's no such thing as perfect solutions, but communication is the lubricant that helps to find a good compromise or at least a good solution for all involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, there is I'd say the earliest case where Nijisanji got on my radar was when they decided to start picking fights with various news YouTubers, in particular False ID and Rev.
Rev says best.
Actually,
Yeah.
Rev wasn't hit as hard, though he did take a few hits. The other big name that was hit was Kyo.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He was a big one that got whacked.
And it was over them commenting on news related to Nijisanji talents. They weren't nearly as harsh as I was on the matter, because they were just reporting the news. They weren't doing editorials.
As well.
Yeah. And the way they went about doing it is kind of what I was hinting at earlier, is that they were basically, whenever one of those particular content creators used a Nijisanji liver in their thumbnail, they would attack the video's thumbnail.
Mm-hmm.
They would copyright claim the thumbnail, for which I don't know has ever really been a big thing on YouTube. Like, people go after YouTube videos for a lot of different reasons, but I've never seen them really heavily go after thumbnails as a mass copyright claim.
I've seen it plenty of times in the past. It's bullshit reasoning to take shit down you don't like. It's always been around.
Though I think the reason why they're doing that, remember, Japan doesn't have a fair use law. They have a law that grants clemency to the creator of the IP.
But
Yeah, well, guess what?
YouTube is a US based corporation, and if they
I
want to
know.
sue, they have to come into our jurisdictions. So
I know. I'm well aware.
Yeah.
Beyond that, though, it's very likely that Nijisanji's legal team, or any color's legal team, realized that they can't DMCA the content of the video, so they can only DMCA the one thing that won't get them a slap back on the wrist. Because YouTube does, when a DMCA is challenged properly and it's proven that this is just something spurious, YouTube does take action against the spurious DMCA reporter. It's rare, but they do it.
Mm-hmm. Which is understandable, given that false DMCA's can does have the threat of perjury.
Yep.
Now, going past that, like I said, that was the first thing that happened that ended up getting my notice. And at first, I thought it was just an isolated case, because we've seen plenty of Japanese companies go hog wild on YouTubers for whatever reason, whether it be Atlas when it came to videos of Persona, the numerous times Nintendo's tried to pick fights with YouTubers, and so on. I'm pretty sure, given certain events, Capcom's going to try and pick fights with YouTubers. Given all
They already are. They already are. Capcom has begun DMCAing videos where people were playing mods on Monster Hunter World. Team Darkside actually reported about it.
Yeah.
Link Zan for my server.
I think it was a tweet.
Mm-hmm.
Link to the tweet then.
Let me find it.
Anyway, while they're doing that, but it was the first case where I think people started taking notice at Nijisanji for doing stuff like this. But as I've come to learn in doing research for this topic, apparently they've had issues in the past with communication issues.
Yeah, and that's the big theme that I wanted to build around. That so many of the problems that Nijisanji / Anycolor are dealing with are problems born of just not properly communicating things, whether it be communicating permissions, whether it be communicating intent, or anything in between. Just not giving people the proper memo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So before we get to the big obvious ones that everyone knows about, let's go for one that maybe a lot of you guys haven't heard about. and show just how far back this has gone. With a member of their Japanese branch that was known at the time as Kinyozaka Mero.
Mhm.
I hope I pronounced that right, but it is a complicated name. But
Hold on, let me look.
no,
Yeah,
no need to go.
Yeah, you pronounced it right.
Mero debuted back in June of 2020 as part of a two-man group. Let me just double check the name here because they were part of a simple two-man crew known as Kiramero, the other member being Sorahoshi Kirame. Now, things had done decent enough, but there was an issue when Mero had been using a particular
thanks, Sam.
dialect term, Deo, at the end of her words.
Yeah.
The problem, no, it was Deo in this case, not Dio. That's Pikami / Henya the Genius.
No, Henya is
No.
Dazo, Pikami is Dayo. It's two very clearly different people. Come on now, John. They're not the same at all.
That being said, the problem with Mero doing Deo is that another member of Nijisanji, Yuzuki Roa, used that exact same dialect. Use that exact same kind of nomenclature.
Mhm.
And Roa got a little miffed about that, thinking that she was cribbing off of Roa's dialect, her accent, if you will. And but here's the thing: Roa admits that she does it artificially; it's part of her character. Whereas Mero was saying it was natural. But for whatever reason, Mero was unwilling to talk it out with Roa. Like, Roa kept saying, hey, can we just talk about this and kind of get on the same page here? Work something out? And Mero wasn't having it. And things got so bad that eventually Mero leaked confidential information to a drama tuber.
Jeez, why
Gee,
does this
where have we
sound
heard that before?
Yeah.
Topical.
Yeah. A lot of Rusia fans picked their ears up on that one, I'm sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
And of course, just like with Rusia, this leaking of information prompted Ichikara / Anycolor to terminate her contract for violating NDA.
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing. Management never stepped in.
Nope.
At what point does management need to go, okay, Mero, Roa, come here. Let's get this shit straightened out.
Mhm.
You have, this is a case where you've got to put your foot down and say, I don't care if you're unwilling to. This is going to lead to problems. Get your ass here and let's talk about this.
Yeah.
It really should. In any properly managed company, when you've got people who have that much of a problem with each other, the smart approach to do is to haul them back and say, ladies, you're both ugly. Okay, I say that last part in jest, but
I mean, we don't know. We only know their avatars.
True.
It could be true.
True.
I would like to say, though, that it's probably not true, especially since, for some reason or another, Matara Khan did a real-life face reveal the other day on her stream. And, Mommy, yes?
Ah.
Yeah.
Mommy, yes.
Can you find me a clip of that, please?
I absolutely can. I absolutely can. It's in one of my video subscriptions.
yeah.
Send
for
me a link to
science.
that later.
Me too.
For research purposes.
But regardless, I think that if that was not if it weren't for it's kind of telling that the powers that be stepped in only when stuff got leaked, which that sort of leaking is always a massive cry for attention. or
Yeah.
or things have gotten that level of petty. And I can be a petty motherfucker, but I've never leaked anything. Even when stuff was sent to me in confidence, I'm like, I'm not talking about this unless I get permission.
Exactly.
There was a whole.
Express written consent.
Well, it's not an issue of that. It's an issue of professionalism.
Oh, that too.
And I know that I know that it would be tempting to say that why am I arguing professionalism when talking about a bunch of livers? Even performers, no matter the age, you do have to hold yourself to at least some kind of standard, especially if you want to keep being a performer.
Mm-hmm.
Although, once again, referencing back to our first video on VTubers regarding authenticity, they all know they're entertainers. Yes. And they all know that they're there to entertain people, but they do it by being their best selves while stepping into the character at the same time, rather than just fully focusing on the character. So,
Yeah.
so you get the professionalism, but you also get things like Matata teaching Henya how to flip people off in Lethal Company.
I saw that clip.
Yeah.
I love that clip.
Like,
I also love I love the dynamic between her Matata, Henya, and Zen. It's the best.
So do I.
the kitchen. Yeah, you had.
God damn it, Monk.
You have the tea kettle. You have the toaster, and you have the
cockroach. Yes. That
good.
that
save.
sounds.
But the point is that when it came to this, I wouldn't be surprised if for the more well run agencies that some degree of coaching is present. Much like how certain actors and the like are going to have some sort of coach some sort of coach or publicist to help with these sort of things. But
Well, and we see that contrast again with HoloLive. The girls all have managers that help coach them on this stuff. They constantly refer to things like, "Oh, I just got bonked by Mane-chan because, oh, I'm about to step out of boundaries that I shouldn't step out of," sort of thing.
Yeah.
We then get horror stories of Fuamoko keeps harassing us, says Mane-chan, and we have to keep getting them dojin, says Mane-chan, because they are, in the end they are really like a family.
They really,
really
are.
Not only is it good to have managers, it's good to have managers who know what they're doing and at the same time know how to have fun with it. Like, Kitty Yukoko would often joke about how, like, because of how wild she was, management had a hard time reining her in. Like, there's that one time she was doing a 3D stream and she was literally pointing out when managers said, "Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this."
Or the times that Callie has talked about J-Chad.
Yes.
But it's clear that the management on HoloLive's side keeps engaged with their talent in order to keep that professionalism at an all-time high and do it in a, as we pointed out, respectful and fun way. Any Color doesn't seem to do that at all.
For whatever fucking reason.
Yeah.
Is it because they see them more as streamers? Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, that's possible.
Even if they're seeing them as streamers, the whole thing of it's an issue of you're still a company and they're still your employees.
Hell, I think the best way to describe this is that as a company, your job is to take a lot of the busy work out of the livers' hands so that they can focus on doing what they do best. And this is and Nijisanji's inability to do that is most prevalent with Mitara Khan. Because Mitara Khan, when shortly after she debuted for VShojo, she talked about her experiences with VShojo management. Now, she doesn't outright say anything, but the way she says this very much implies what really happened at Nijisanji is that when she was talking about
Yeah.
Sorry, got distracted. Yeah, okay. When Mitara talked about wanting to do something for VShojo's 3rd anniversary, her VShojo manager was like, okay, what can I get for you? Can I, do you need me to commission artists? Do you need me to get music for you? Do you need me to get this and that? Yada, yada, yada. And Mitara was Mitara was so blown away by how much that her manager was willing to go bend over backwards to get her whatever she needed. And she outright said, I wasn't used to that.
Yeah. That is the clear indicator that it's a shit show over there.
Because for those who have not seen my splash screen yet and have not put 2 and 2 together, Mitara Khan has been easily identified as a former Nijisanji talent. So that pretty much put 2 and 2. That pretty much answered a lot of questions real fucking quick.
Her debut when she said "Hi, honey" gave it all away.
Yeah.
Every fucking thing. She knew exactly what she was doing.
It's not like her voice is mistakable for anybody else's. I mean, she knew, like, people are going to know who I am. I might as well just tell them.
Yes. I think.
But
What's interesting about that little bit of a tidbit is for the longest time when the graduation had happened initially, I was under the impression that she was dealing with a bit of imposter syndrome, because I did get that vibe at times with her, and I'm not saying that wasn't the case. It probably was, though. I'd imagine the hands-off nature of just trying to get the higher-ups' attention on various things certainly did not help matters.
No.
Yeah. It's clear that the treatment that she got when she was, for those of us who haven't said the name yet, Nina Kosaka of Nijisanji, she was suffering from not being able to get the type of assistance that she needed, as implied by her comments as Mitara Khan. And also, the implications I got were that everything was kind of just coming around down her ears. She felt overwhelmed, and it led to her believing that she wasn't cut out for this role. Which, when you put everything on your talent, everything, and you're supposed to be helping them at least a little bit, and Nijisanji does really help just a little bit, usually just art and rigging, and that's about it. The type of pressure that you are mounting on somebody who came to a corporate setting so that they could have some sort of support infrastructure, that's bullshit. That's absolute and abject bullshit. The fact that VShojo, a much smaller group, could give her 100 million times the support that she got at Nijisanji is telling that Any Color wasn't putting forth any fucking effort. None whatsoever.
Mm-mm.
And I think this actually
Chase.
adds to the whole problem. You know, when you look at the whole quantity over quality thing that I mentioned that we talked about earlier, I think that's one of the detriments to that mentality of just constantly throwing out more livers instead of dealing with the ones you've got. They're so focused on just throwing out more and more talent that the ones that they already have aren't getting the support that they need. I mean, how do you manage that much talent if you're not have some people fall through the cracks?
Yeah, you fuckers aren't Atlas.
I don't know. How do you manage that much talent and not have some of them fall through the cracks? I don't know. Maybe have your managers actually give a fuck?
Yeah, and be contributory.
I think that's one of the reasons why other agencies don't throw out that many talents at once in that frequency, because they want to make sure that the talents they have management set in place so that they can have that support structure. They don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
My fucking god.
There's
Shades, I know.
Flutter, don't talk with your mouth full.
No, I
There's-
wasn't talking about my muscle. I had my hands over my face. But I was going to make a comparison, but go ahead anyway. I
There,
can hold my thought.
there is an analogy that's often heard in military circles. Children study tactics, men study logistics. Because it's not just if you're bringing in, if you have like a talent roster of 50 people, that's not you don't have just a talent roster of 50 people. You have just as many support people, whether it be managers, whether it be artists, whether it be riggers that you're dealing with. Like the more that you add, the more work that you have to support them.
Yep.
The whole analogy of people wanting 100 cheap tanks over 50 expensive ones.
Right.
And of course the whole streaming thing really ends up showcasing that. The focus on being.
Yep.
But then moving past that, I believe that there was one significantly bigger case that really ended up getting my attention, and that deals with a certain song that apparently everything was clear right up until the song was put out, and then all of a sudden, nope, it's not sweet.
Oh yeah, their most recent fuck up.
No, not the most recent fuck up, because I would say Palmu is technically the most recent fuck up, but we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
Their most recent individual fuck up regarding an actual action of one of their talent. I should say.
I assume, Monk, you're talking about Selene's Christmas present.
Yes.
Yeah, she did a cover of a song that is one of her favorite songs, and was going to give it to all of the Dragoons, her fan base, as a good.
That's an awesome fan base name.
As a Christmas present. It was up for I think 7 hours. 7 hours, and then management goes no, private it. No, management doesn't even say anything to her. Her tweet about it said management privated the video, which means management has login credentials for each of the girls or each of the livers accounts. And while that is something that is I think kind of to be expected from a corporation, to have that level of access just in case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Using it for something like this is petty and bullshit.
I think there was
if
also
I
the
may,
implication that
go ahead.
she had been working on that song and on that video for the better part of a year.
The better part of a year, and it was mostly out of pocket. That's the one thing that pisses me off the most about Nijisanji's dealings and Anycolor's dealings with Selene Tatsuki specifically. Mm-hmm. She does a fuck ton of shit with money out of pocket herself. Does it herself. Funds it herself. Art contests, game contests, all of it. Funds it her fucking self. And they go, no, you can't give out the prizes. Why not? It's her fucking money. It's not your fucking money, it's hers.
There was the whole thing with the Christmas present, but then I remember a few months before that there was the whole thing of shutting down the game stuff that she was doing.
Oh yeah,
also
like a tournament or something she was setting up.
Mm-hmm.
A tournament that she was going, again, out of pocket, pay the winners.
And
the same thing with art contests she had done before that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I'm so
by the way,
fucking angry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and you have every right to be. Also, for those who were wondering what the song is actually titled, it's titled "Last Cup of Coffee"
Mhm.
And it's a cover, and she even got permission to do the cover.
from the original artist, which is what makes this especially ire-inducing.
Mhm.
Honestly, I will not be surprised if in the next year she announces her graduation.
Me neither. She'd be a perfect fit for Bishojo.
So many of the Dragoons, her own members, have said in chats, on her Twitter, on her fucking, on the Nijisanji Reddit, on the fan Reddit for her, everywhere. They're like, Selene, you should not renew your contract. You should not renew your contract. Don't do this anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's so fucking infuriating. It's just like, what the fuck, Any Color? Especially,
Oh my
again,
god. They're wanting her to pull a Jack Perry.
my
Yeah.
my biggest thing here is when it comes to the competitions that she's had, when it comes to a lot of the projects she gives to the Dragoons as gifts, including songs and animations,
Mhm.
most of that is either things she fucking drew herself, because she's actually quite a talented artist, or it's her own money. And Any Color still goes,
Which,
no, you
again,
can't do
they're
that.
gifts. Which,
And that begs the question,
fuck you.
here's the question I have then. Has she not been able to approach them about this and say, hey, listen, I want to do this. What can we do?
She has.
Yeah, I'm wondering that myself.
Like, if she's
Oh,
doing
she
that
has.
and they're still shutting her down, then yeah. At that point, I'm going, what the fuck?
No,
Yeah.
It's
Neither am I.
not something she can talk about openly, obviously.
Mhm.
But
Naturally.
Yeah, I wonder why.
there's been implications in a lot of her tweets and in a lot of the things she talks about on her open chats when people ask the questions about it that imply she has approached management. Management fails to talk to her for weeks on end. So she goes
Weeks on
forward. Yes, weeks on end. She goes forward with the initial work, the announcements, all of the stuff, setting it up, getting rosters for her competitions and stuff, and then management finally comes back and goes, no, can't do that.
The fact that, and yeah, like we keep stressing, she goes above and fucking beyond for her fan base. Yet they're like, yeah, no, fuck you.
And using Last Cup of Coffee as an example, the Twitter thread before it got pruned, implied that she had been telling and updating management during the entire production process without a response from them until day of after she posted it.
Mhm.
Which that's the worst. That's what's more rage inducing because, like we said earlier, she had been funding this out of pocket for over a year.
And
Now you begin to see the problem we're having here with this is that this is like
Yep.
this could have easily been solved with them just at the beginning saying, listen, it's great that you wanted that, but not right now. You can't do that yet. Just one message
Yeah.
at the very beginning would have saved a whole lot of headaches. But no, they waited until the last minute to fuck her over.
Well,
The literal last minute, yeah.
and the big thing is, like, a lot of these things aren't costing Any Color much of anything. Again, out of pocket. It's out of pocket from Selene. And there should be literally zero reason, if it's not going to cost Any Color anything and is in fact going to make them views and money through donos and Twitch bits and all that other shit. They should just go, yeah, go ahead, do that.
Mhm.
They should literally just go, yeah, go ahead, do that. You're going to make a ton of money for us, and you're the one paying for it? Sure. Why the fuck
Also-
not?
Yeah. Also, Zan, if I may,
Mhm.
to Any Color, since you're going to be such Scrooges to someone who goes above and beyond for you and bends over backwards at every possible juncture, good afternoon.
But this was the reason why I decided to give it the title of discommunication, because because if it was a case where she was approaching them about permission for a lengthy amount of time, and others were doing a similar thing, then what inevitably ended up happening shouldn't have happened, because at any point somebody could have stepped in and said this is said that this is not a good idea to do for whatever reason.
Exactly.
I'm not. Some of you may know the story, but I will simply state this just to draw a little bit of a parallel. Some of you may recall the incident all the way back in November.
Oh, this.
I remember. Oh, hold on. Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Now, after the fallout of that incident, the person responsible tried to claim that we did not grasp what we were stepping into, because we hadn't watched any of the previous streams.
Which is absolute bullshit.
I'm getting to that.
Fair. Anyway, go ahead.
Now I had set up the date, and I had set up and had all parties agree to the date and time 3 weeks in advance. That's 3 weeks that either Xanatrix or myself could have been briefed.
Yep.
I remember
Squawk,
asking,
Flutter.
I remember asking
Yeah,
Lady
hold
K-
on, real quick.
Mhm.
Flutter, it's been a long time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was warranted.
But the thing is, I when I was talking with Lady K, the other day when we were doing prep for the postmortem episode of the Emberwind campaign. I had asked her about prep time, and she had said that for interviews at conventions that they would have a bit of time just to prep the guests, and I'm pretty sure you can attest to this. You probably had like 30 or so minutes to prep and make sure everybody was on the same page before starting with the interview.
It wouldn't. Sometimes depends on what was going on at the time, but usually we at least would have 5 to 10 minutes to get our stuff set up and to talk with the guests real quick and make sure they go over any questions they may have issues with. Make sure we're all on the same page there. But yeah, we have at least a few minutes to prep our guests to make sure that they know what's coming.
Yeah, and the point that I'm getting at is, in those kind of situations, even though there's probably a lot of back and forth leading to the convention and getting the slot for it, everybody's more or less on the same page come showtime.
Yeah, actually, no, I'll go further than that, because especially in the later years before they stopped letting us do interviews altogether, one thing they would always insist on doing is the guest relations director would have us send our questions to them to relay to their agent or the guest themselves to make sure that they're comfortable with it. So they would get that prep time.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know how long the pipeline between the actual interview and the initial approach was for you, but I'd imagine it was several weeks at the very least.
Oh, absolutely, at least a month or so.
Mm-hmm. And the guy responsible for the November incident, he had 3 weeks with Xanatrix and myself. Obviously in the case we're talking about with our favorite dragon, that's a year's worth of prep and communication.
Yep.
And I'm not trying to use this to say that the situation that Xanatrix and I found ourselves in is in any way comparable. It's obviously not. There were far less moving parts with us.
Mm-hmm.
What I am saying, however, is that if it was so easy for us, like a bunch of fucking nobodies, by to have this thing squared away within days. Like it only takes me a day for some of the interviews and some of the things I get set up, and I have those things set up weeks in advance. Then for a company the size of Any Color, that makes it all the more egregious that they couldn't. If a one-man operation can get everybody on the same page, then Any Color's got no excuse.
No, none at all.
I say bigger company, but I don't quite know how much bigger Any Color is. For all I know, they could be the equivalent of a super indie.
I can actually check that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yes,
I'm doing
Any
that
Color
myself.
is a company, but we all know that size is variable on that front. I mean, contrary to popular belief,
YMMV.
a
So-
company like CD Projekt Red is not a AAA studio.
Mm-mm.
Or
Just use that as an
FromSoft. Yeah. According to Statista.com, a statistics website, the number of employees working for Any Color Incorporated in fiscal year 2023 was 323 employees. And I don't think that that's just that's Any Color specifically. So that's the management company. That's not Nijisanji, the actual talent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which would mean you toss in the talent, you're probably talking
About 600 people.
Yeah.
And but that's still enough that you could have a manager per like 5 people and be just fucking fine.
Uh-huh. Especially at the rate you announce talent.
Mm-hmm. And I believe there was one other major case of a talent jumping in, and this is where we get to talk about our new VTubing's new dog.
I'm sure there's one more we'll talk about after this.
Mm-hmm.
2 more,
Oh, yeah.
actually.
Because I do recall seeing him a bit, and it seemed like there was a bit of fraying in the way he was speaking just before graduating from Nijisanji and then coming out of nowhere with Vshoujo, because, well, no one expected Vshoujo to do any male performers because of the fucking name.
Exactly.
And then out of nowhere, lo and behold, K9 Kuro.
Mm-hmm.
Also known as Mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
Back when he was part of Luxium in Nijisanji En.
Which, by the way, that name, Mysterious. You really? That's the best. That's what you come up with?
Fucking really?
Mysterious? I know. It's really funny. But
I mean, I had a tabletop player who insisted on playing a character named Surprise, so
Hey,
But
that could
sure,
be just
we'll
a
go with
Voltaire
it.
reference as far as I know.
it was not.
That would be just a reference
It was
to
not.
When I Am Evil.
let's also not forget that in the same group we have Vox Akuma, a play on the old Vox Populi joke.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Who ended up being in some controversies because some people don't know how to be mature about things.
And Vox Akuma did not give 2 shits of a fuck about them. Vox is what, like, I don't think Any Color can do anything to Vox that Vox wouldn't, like, shrug off and then be like, okay, fuck you, I have a better place to go. Vox is that much, I don't give a fuck. He'll do what he wants.
In a way, he's kind of the Kiryu Koko of Nijisanji.
In a
pretty
way.
much is, yeah.
Since you brought up Coco, I do want to give my congratulations to a successful election to the people of Taiwan.
since you brought up Coco, I'd like to say congratulations, unknown stranger in that is one of the new hostesses in one of the Yakuza games.
Mhm.
Ryuga Gotoku. Yeah, Gaiden.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
although I do find it funny that when Kei-san was playing that game and she ended up getting shut down by herself.
Yeah, she lost the fucking mini game and got rejected. She also was like, "Wait a minute, I'm not that stacked." Looking at the model, and I'm like, Kei-san, they literally took like
You.
you in that specific dress as part of this scene. Your tits aren't stacked like that right now because you're not wearing the same dress.
Exactly.
It was funny.
Oh, gotta love Kei-san.
Yeah.
Gotta
Kei-san-
love Kei-san.
Kei-san is queen.
But the th- but the thing, the reason why I say things seemed a bit frayed was there seemed to be this tone that I couldn't help but notice in like the last few clips of him in the graduation announcement that I had saw, which seemed to indicate a frustration. Before we get to some of the bigger cases, though, earlier you had stated that it seems that the Indonesia and English branches seem to have the most trouble. And because of that, I'm pretty sure the argument could be made that there's a language barrier issue. Now, personally, I have my doubts on that. But what do you guys think? Do you think a language barrier might be a factor into
No,
these
it
communication
shouldn't
problems?
be. It shouldn't be.
Whether it should be or whether it is are two different things. I imagine it's
Yeah.
probably a minor problem, but I doubt it's a major factor.
So the way I see it, many of the Nijisanji EN members tend to be bilingual.
So it isn't an issue.
Not all of them are, and I don't know which ones all are and all aren't. But in many cases, most of them should be able to communicate with even only Japanese-speaking members of management. Now,
Yeah.
the other side of that is that as part of business schools in Japan, every business person is taught English. English is a required course in their primary, secondary, and tertiary schools. So that's, while that's not necessarily going to guarantee an English-speaking management system, it's something that should hint towards one, especially when you are opening English branches.
Yeah.
So, could it be an issue? Maybe for some of the talent who may not be bilingual or may not be fully fluent in Japanese, but still somewhat bilingual. Is it an issue? We can't know without more understanding. And ultimately, it's very clear that Nijisanji does have English-speaking, at least some English-speaking management somewhere, due to the community managers for the English Twitters and the English Reddits, and the actual English side having at least some people that will talk to them, just not a lot, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that in companies like New Japan, even with the Japanese talent, there is an effort made to have them know some rudimentary English.
Yeah.
So
Same
entry-
goes for All Japan and Noah, I think.
Well, it's gonna be standard because these sorts of English excursions have been a thing since the days of Ricky Dozan.
Yeah.
In a global corporation, especially one that is branching out from a non-English speaking country to English to the world,
Mm-hmm.
English is kind of the expectation. As I've said before in numerous other GeekWatch episodes and any of our Valley of the Judge stuff when we have to bring up currency and language, English is and has been lingua franca for probably 800 years now. Various forms of English, obviously, but not modern English as we know it now. But English has been the most common language of money, lingua franca, for a long time, and it still is. And I know that there are going to be people who will be like, "But what about Mandarin?" China talks to the English in English. So what about Mandarin? The expectation to speak English as part of that may seem a little, well, egocentric of English-speaking countries in the West, and it probably is just a little bit. But it doesn't stop the fact that it has become such an entrenched thing in commerce that not having English-speaking, at least interpreters to help with communication it's almost commercial suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could say, in fact, I'm going to say this with about 95% certainty. Nijisanji absolutely has English-speaking management partners who can speak to Niji-en fairly easily if they wanted to put forth the effort. And to me, this entire thing has seemed to be a lack of effort rather than a lack of means.
Yep.
It's the way you say that. It sounds like there's this idea of, oh, we'll just throw the talent out there and let them solve the issue.
Oh,
When
throw
it
them out
comes
to the wolves.
when it comes to Niji-en, that's kind of how it feels like. Oh yeah, we'll get you some character art and we'll get you some rigging so you can do the VTubing. Good luck. And that's kind of what it feels like.
Which if that's how it's gonna be, then that begs the question: why even branch out to the English-speaking audience if you're not gonna try?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like the some of the biggest examples of why I think this is the case is just looking at Lazulite. And we're going to get to Pomu specifically, but looking at all three members, Finana, Illyra, and Pomu, everything seems to be almost 100% their own effort the entire time. Illyra tries not to talk about the any color Niji side of things at all. Illyra just wants to focus on, what are we playing today, guys? And all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And Finana, well, everybody has the memes about the horny fish. Everybody has the memes about the horny fish. But with that, it's clear that even their, like, Lazulite was their premiere, and Lazulite blew up. Like,
Dead.
when Niji announced Lazulite and we got those girls, I was fucking on board. I was there for it. I was there for probably the first three groups, and then I started to get a bit fatigued. I was just like, oh god.
Which is understandable because
they came out like 3 months from each other, just bam, then 3 months, then bam, then 3 months, then bam. I'm like, oh my god, please guys, slow down. I can only take so much VTubing talent. I don't have enough time or attention for this.
Mm-hmm.
But when we look at Lazulite, Illyra has kind of, her growth is slow but steady. Finana, I don't really hear much about her anymore. I hear the constant mention of her memes, and I hear about her in context of Lazulite. But Finana individually, I'm not I don't really hear much about. I don't see many clips of her anymore. Comparatively, I am saying comparatively. Obviously, there's lots of clips of Finana. Pomu is probably the most popular member of Lazulite due to all of the zany shenanigans she has pulled with begging Alira to take her along on a Minecraft trip and getting a little yandere about it. All of her Metal Gear memes, everything. And of course, after she announced her upcoming graduation, I believe on the 20th. Oh, that's 6 days away. I'm sad now. Yeah. Pomu, even while she couldn't talk about it openly on her stream, she did say that the reason for the graduation, at least from what was implied, had to do with the fact that she couldn't do what she wanted to. She couldn't explore her creative freedom, and it was time for her to move on and spread those wings.
Yeah, she's making it clear she's not quitting VTubing. She's just not gonna. She got overwhelmed, and seeing all of her friends leave Nijisanji did not help matters.
Oh yeah,
The only reason she didn't graduate sooner is because she didn't want to leave her fans with that same feeling of loss, but she just couldn't handle it anymore.
No. My favorite meme that popped up from that entire initial announcement was Pomu Rainpuff fans. It's a picture of Surprise Pikachu, so you know what the punchline is supposed to be here. Pomu Rainpuff fans, when she graduates on January 20th, and on January 2021, Vishoujo announces IMOP Sunspike.
January 21st, yeah.
Yes.
But this goes further into that whole thing of if you're gonna try and branch out to the U.S., why half-ass it so much? Especially since I would say Poem big English-speaking faces, and when we talked about this a few years ago, we talked about how the English branch was born out of the crossover appeal with several livers.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Niji EN sprang up because of Niji ID, actually. Indonesia?
Yeah, and of course in Indonesia, you're going to be dealing with a healthy amount of English speakers.
Not to mention, Indonesia was fucking hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I would say the one of the bigger names that I think really drew people's attention to Nijisanji in the West was probably like Hanamakia.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
especially considering the fact that she streamed with her dad.
Yeah.
but
that,
Of course,
in and of itself, is fucking wholesome.
Of course, that whole thing escalating when Mick Gordon showed up.
I would like to point out though that Indonesia has had a lot of retirement, a lot of graduation.
Yeah, they've actually lost their most recent wave, their 6WS.
When
And
Mika left.
Mika Melatika, oh, that's a blow right there.
Yeah, that was a stab right in the heart.
Yeah.
Because Mika was getting white hot lately. She had been like one of the hottest members of Niji ID, even though they're not really Niji ID anymore, but that's a whole other thing. But yeah, she was like one of their biggest stars, even bigger than freaking Hanamakia. And now to lose her, that's a pain for both sides, both for us as fans and for Niji as a company, because that was a marketable character they had.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Niji ID and other just so everybody understands, Niji ID, Niji Korea, they don't really exist anymore because everything was merged into the JP branch. Technically.
Which again, if you're going to try and branch out to other demographics, why are you half-assing it?
Well, what's really fucked up? It was they left Niji EN separate. Let's just put that into perspective. I am pretty sure that most of their management has always been focused on Niji JP, the original Nijisanji. That's just. I mean, let's not knock around the bush here. Not every corporation can be Cover Corp and realize that a global audience needs global attention.
Yeah.
Many Japanese corporations still focus on Japan first. This is just a part of the culture there. But
understandable, but the whole we focus on Japan first kind of falls apart when you're still trying to branch out into other countries.
absolutely, which is again why I think everything is a lack of effort over a lack of means, because they decided Japan was most important and the others could just, they could do it themselves, right, guys?
Yeah.
Not to mention that first, and this isn't the first merger Nijisanji has gone through. Nijisanji originally merged in 2018, Nijisanji Gamers and Nijisanji Seeds. So it was just Nijisanji. This second merger of both the Indonesia side and the Korean side is kind of interesting because a lot of Indonesian people can pick up Japanese pretty easily where they're at, and Koreans can pick up Japanese, though they may not always be willing to. There's a lot of ethnic tensions between the three East Asian countries even to this day, so that's a thing. Not really need to get into that. But the idea that they can all just be held under the main branch, which is still primarily Japanese, is I still think that the XIDs, as they're called, and the XKRs are going to come up second in the considerations of the company. And then Nijisanji EN is going to be last.
And it's this sort of, and let's be honest, shortly after that kind of thing happens, you're no doubt going to see them try and branch right back out again after consolidating everything.
Yeah.
It's the analogy the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing is apropos.
Absolutely. If any color keeps going this way, they're going to be reduced down to their most recognizable faces. Whether that's Indonesia's Hanamakia and Bonivier Pranaja, or whether that's, the core members of any of their JP teams, whether that's going to be even some of the EN members that are left, such as Illyra and Selene currently. It's going to boil down. People are going to leave faster and faster if they can't keep their talents not necessarily appeased, because it's not that they're appeasing them, it's supported. That's the word. If they can't support their talents correctly, more and more are going to bleed away. They're going to get snapped up by other groups. While we've been seeing, as you said, V-Shoujo eat their lunch over the past few months, getting 2 new talents out of the deal, and I could just as easily see Pomu going V-Shoujo as going indie.
Yeah.
Because she was indie before she went to Nijisanji. So that's a thing. But you could also see, like, if they have actual JP talents start bleeding out, you might see other smaller JP corps, like Idol, pick them up, or or if they have some very fluent JP English talents, those could get picked up by Prism Project, whose focus is on English and Japanese speaking talents. That is the focus of Prism Project. That's their stated goal. There are plenty of smaller outfits that could pick up the bleed out, as well as the more recognizable outfits like VShojo or Hololive. Although I could completely see Hololive going, you're going to bleed out some of your best talent, and we've got a generation that we're putting out applications for now. Maybe we should reach a hand out to these people. Maybe we won't need more than just some of these people. You're bleeding any color. It would be the biggest fuck you, and I could see Yago doing it. Just be like, hey, so I heard that you didn't have a good time over at Any Color. Would you like to come to Cover Corp?
Yeah.
You could be an idol with the rest of us.
Just imagine if Pomu did join Hololive, considering how much she wanted to work with like Kiara and all of them, and now she gets to work with them full time.
I could see Pomo doing that too. Actually,
Yeah.
no. Okay, people, just have it on your bingo card. Hollow EN fourth group, Pomo Rainpuff.
Yeah.
I could. Man, that would be the biggest Cover Corp is like, step into the office. You can be part of us now. It would be too sweet. Too sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. That'd be so cathartic.
But now, if we're going to talk about communication issues leading to trouble,
Oh God.
Oh God.
we kind of have to address the big fat elephant in the room, and there's a reason why she's in the center of my splash screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Zion Lanza.
Member of the she was the 6th generation.
Yeah, XLA.
And she did not last very long, but now, to be fair, a few of these issues were Zion's own doing. She was not innocent in all this.
And she acknowledged that. Or no, excuse me, her friend acknowledged that.
Her friend acknowledged that in a later in a post-graduation, in a post-termination stream, where she admitted that, she said some things and did some things that, were a little controversial and irked some people. Fans did not like some of the stuff she was doing. But there were some things that people weren't bothered by, but management kept getting on her ass about, and they weren't making it very clear what her... And this whole thing really exposed Nijisanji's bigger problems. Like how little the livers actually get of a cut of their own worth.
Yeah, and I'd
Yeah.
say this was one of the things that accelerated matters.
Yeah. Like, don't get us wrong. If you're working in an agency, we understand the agency gets a cut of whatever money you make, whether it be merch sales, donos, whatever. You understand going into an agency, they're going to take a cut of what you make because that's their job. They're paying. If they're paying for you to get all your shit, you got to give a little of that money back.
Yeah, they're supporting you by giving you the art and the rigging and the access to those sorts of resources and the support structure. Oh, the support structure. That's the important part.
Yes, exactly. So you understandably are going to give some of that money back, but apparently Niji takes a pretty damn big cut, and they're not giving the support structure back?
Does it make you go, as it were?
Yeah.
This is more a thing that makes me go, what the fuck? I raise my dukes at shit like this.
I don't blame you, sir, and I agree with you.
And I agree with you as well.
And the way they handled Zion Lanza was just terrible. First, they suspended her through the guise of her taking a break. Like anyone's buying that shit for a fucking minute.
Right.
Even if you ran a fire sale on it, no one would pick it up.
Exactly. And then, of course, then she got terminated when apparently she wouldn't. They weren't getting through to her. Well, maybe they get through to her better if you fucking explained yourself every once in a fucking while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah! Give us actual evidence to support your fucking claims.
Not just that, they just didn't tell her what she did wrong. They just said she did wrong, and well,
Due process.
I don't think this is an issue of due process or anything like that. It's an issue of how is somebody supposed to fix whatever they did wrong when you don't tell them.
exactly.
When they don't know what they did wrong. Now, granted, if somebody is told what they did wrong and then they keep doing it, that's another problem. But that's not what happened here.
Yeah.
No,
Actually,
they told her what they did wrong, what she did wrong, on her termination paper, on the termination announcement, listing all the things she did. Yeah,
They told her what she did wrong after it was too late to try and correct the behavior.
And
It's
that's
just fuck you, but fuck you on the high horse you fucking rode in on.
well. That being the case, then what's the point of saying that? Because at that point it just comes off as one giant F-bomb.
Yeah.
It's more petty than me or Monk.
Like when
that's saying something, folks.
when we're petty, we do it because it's funny.
Our pettiness
petty,
is
they just
cheeky and fun. Their pettiness is evil and cruel. Not really pettiness at all. Yeah, pettiness.
I swear to God, I'll piss the next person that says pettiness.
Hey, Flutter,
but
what's that place you'd like to go to? You know, the one with the animals?
Petting zoo. Oh, we have fun here.
I should hope we do.
Yeah.
If we weren't having fun here, why the fuck would we be doing this?
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's the fucking point.
But I remember looking at that and then going back to some of the times when I've fucked up in my own work, and the numerous times where I did that. There was one case when it came to entering in some forms after I had been on the involuntary vacation that we all were on for 6 months.
Yeah.
I had said I hadn't been doing this in 6 months. Obviously there were going to be some issues, but I'm not going to know what those issues are and address them if I never had that issue come up again.
Because communication is key.
Anytime on a form that I do screw up, one of my colleagues who is double checking the forms will tell me.
Yeah.
Which is smart because I don't want to have to cover for a barge if one of those mistakes ends up going through, because those things are not cheap.
No.
How expensive? The answer to that is, if you have to ask, you probably can't afford it.
Exactly.
I mean, it's only commerce, Monk. It's only commercial levels of money.
His point still stands, though, Zan.
He's being sarcastic.
Oh, fair.
You might need to hit the button again, John.
Yeah.
No, this doesn't involve that didn't use that button. That's almost a Joker level button right there.
Oh, Jesus.
Fair.
Let's see. Where is that button? Yeah.
If you have to explain a joke, there is no joke!
Exactly.
But
the
thing, like there's been a few times where I've made one little error, and I know I'm not trying to do some woe is me about how difficult the job is, but there are a lot of moving parts, and every one of those has to be properly minded.
Yeah.
Zan, it's not far removed from how precarious coding is, which you and
I
know
know.
way too Well, one little line is not where it's supposed to be, and the whole thing falls apart. Or
My code doesn't work. I have no idea why. My code is working. I still have no idea why. That is a common meme for a reason.
Yes. 99 little bugs in the code, 99 bugs in the code. You take one down, you patch it around, 287 bugs in the code.
And this is why I do not program for a living, people. Network security is much, much better. At least in my opinion.
Well,
Some people will say, how can you say that when it's all that tracking and all the checking all the different subnets? And I'm like, because it's a logic puzzle, and I love logic puzzles.
Some of you may, John, you may recall that when it came to setting up for Roll20, I was sweating at the idea of having to make custom sheets in HTML. If it comes to that, I'm still not doing it. I'm not going back.
As someone who took a class for HTML in high school, I understand completely.
As someone who designed his own HTML website that consisted of basically explaining all of Final Fantasy VI in different dossiers, I could do it. I wouldn't want to, but I could.
Yeah, and in this case, I really do. I really don't want to. Not just because I haven't done that in about a decade, but also because it's a level of bullshit I don't want to deal with. But not
to mention it's changed since then, Monk. CSS has become a thing since you and I did it in school, which is an entirely new layer of bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
And getting back on the rails, the fact that the talents were getting so little and not getting the support ends up bringing the question of why the hell are we working for you? For exposure? You don't live on exposure, you die of exposure.
Yeah.
As the saying goes, and I realize the irony of saying that given all the people that I interview, but the thing about my interviews is everybody knows that there isn't going to be money exchanged. It is about getting someone's name out there in whatever way possible.
It's a case of you're just talking with them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not expecting a service from them. If they give you something, that's a bonus, but that's not that's not part of the exchange.
Yeah. There's been a few people who have given me stuff, but it's not like I ever ask for it. Unlike some board game reviewers who ask to get paid for whatever game that they're reviewing, which is always baffled me because if money's involved, that's going to taint the review. Even if somebody says that they're not, it's going to influence how harsh you may or may not be. But in this particular case, I think I believe that there's the understanding that, and the way that this is supposed to work is the liver performs, the management supports them in being able to focus on the performance and not have to worry about the minutiae of maintaining the performance, and thus everybody makes money, everybody wins. That's how this is supposed to work. Am I incorrect?
That sounds about right to me.
I don't know. Maybe there's just a part of the business we don't understand. Maybe.
Maybe. At that, but the whole idea of this being that special of a business sounds like a magic argument.
It does.
And I say that because I'm fairly certain somebody's tried to advance that there's some mystical part of the business that we mere mortals cannot possibly fathom. Because or the whole you're not in that industry. You have no idea how things work. Which is
And
true.
no.
Which no one ever asked whether or not I or anybody else here knows how that works. Obviously, our level of knowledge is going to be limited, but there is a whole thing about observable reality, especially when patterns emerge, and that I know some people get annoyed with me constantly bringing up patterns, but it's a reliable metric, so I'm going to keep using it.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to this particular thing, as more and more people are able to make a name for themselves, just being independent, the question ends up coming when it comes to a company like Any Color. Why are we working with you?
And that's what we've been seeing.
Yeah.
And then when you have agencies like Vishojo who are bending over backwards to help their talent, what is Any Color providing that they can't get themselves or get better elsewhere? With the rise of independence, like you said, you look at the independent scene, especially for the English independent scene, holy shit.
Yeah.
So many talents are killing it right now, and other popping up who are offering new services and giving these in colors potential, and they're not doing anything to adapt.
No. Anyway, guys, I'm being called elsewhere, so see you and Monk, Zan tomorrow.
Yep. See you tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, what's the point of having an agency like Nijisanji who's not helping their talents when even just being an independent can get you so many more benefits these days?
Yep. Now, do you remember? You may recall when Gabe had remarked about piracy being a service issue.
Yep.
And
favorite quote of mine.
And the way to combat it is to offer a better service. I believe that particular thing can apply to just business as a whole. If somebody's offering a better value for money or time, then that's where someone's going to go. If that isn't the case, then there's a reason to stay if the value is worth it. When the value is not worth it, then you start having problems.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, when Nijisanji EN first launched, there wasn't that big of a market for agencies. There was Hololive and Nijisanji. Bishojo was just starting to become a thing, but it was more just had some backing. Wasn't really a big deal. But aside from that, you didn't have a lot of other agencies that were in the competitive market. Prison Project, Idol, and all that. They were small time. They were not really they were not going to be able to provide what we thought Cover Court and Any Color were providing. So of course it made sense to jump over to Nijisanji because hey, they're a big agency. They'll back you up. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, the landscape has changed. All these other agencies, even if they're not on the same level as Hololive, are able to provide a strong enough service to make the jump worth it. Mm-hmm. If you're not adapting and fixing your problems, you're leaving yourself wide open to get swallowed whole.
Especially when the pool is full of so many sharks. Okay, sharks may not be the best phrasing there, but the point is that when there's that level of competition, everybody has to work just as much harder to retain the talent that they have. Otherwise, you end up with a brain drain kind of situation. Where the top talent ends up leaving for greener pastures. I mean, I've abused my wrestling references for the night, but look at what happened to All Japan after the Exodus. I mean, even with the Pro Wrestling Love era, it's not like All Japan ever fully recovered from where they were in the 90s.
And we're already seeing that brain drain, though. Like, as we pointed out with Matara Khan and Kuro, people are willing to go where they're treated better, and it's starting to show. If Pomu shows up in anything that isn't indie related, even if it's not V-Shoujo, even if it's something else, that's going to be a flag to other members of Niji En. There's better opportunities elsewhere. Get out.
Hell, I think that's what we're all. I think Pomu may be the biggest flag, but I think seeing Matara Khan and Kuro's success in V-Shoujo, because look what happened to Kuro right after he debuted. Fucker got a silver play button almost immediately.
Yep. That's true. And seeing that success is definitely going to be a big factor. Absolutely. But again, the way I see it, Pomu is kind of the face of Niji En in a way that no one else is, because of the fact that she was part of the Lazulite, the first ones, and she's the one that's probably the most popular out of the three.
Also, hey there, Maddie.
Welcome, Maddie.
Surprise Matty J appears.
Whoa. Yeah, a surprise Manny appears and will disappear as soon as I say, we interrupt this lovely conversation about, I believe it's VTubers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
To inform you of the following question. How about them Cowboys?
Oh God, February can't get here fast enough.
Oh, folks, spoiler alert. We're laughing at the Cowboys on February 13th.
This is an unexpected curveball from left field. Thank you, Maddie.
You know what?
I appreciate it.
You need the comedy.
Oh, no, it's great. That's why I said I appreciate it.
I thought the screwball was banned from baseball.
You know, Monk,
That's a new one.
if it's banned, you just have to not get caught. How are they ever going to know when you're throwing it from left field?
Anyway.
Yeah. But, like I said, with Pomu being what is essentially the biggest face of Niji En, her graduation, first of all, is a huge hit to both audience morale and other Niji Liver morale. I'm sure that Illyra and Finana, her group mates, are not at all happy about this. Hell, I'm sure the other Liver groups she's worked with are demoralized by this. But more than all that, the audiences are going to be like, the fuck is happening? We've had all these bullshit things happen one after another in like the last year. Why are they happening? What the hell is going on? And then, like I said, the big nail through the heart that kills the vampire that is any color is going to be if Pomu shows up in another corp. Like if she goes indie, that's going to be super big for suggesting that people go indie. But a lot of the people who are corp VTubers like having at least some support structure. Part of the reason they joined a corporation was for that support structure. Mm-hmm. So not everybody has the desire to go indie. But if you have a corpo go from one to the other and they're doing way better in the other, it's going to tell those people in under any color's umbrella to go, maybe it's time that I acknowledge that not every rainbow has a pot of gold.
Yeah, because I guarantee you, if Pomu jumps ship, then it won't be long before Selene jumps ship, and when those two together, it's going to create a domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
If there's anything I would put in as a kind of coda for this episode, it's that Nijisanji is going to end up learning the hard way that nobody cares about the company itself, and they could argue that they can bring in other livers that draw a following, but the thing is, it is going to be the equivalent of when a replacement is brought in for the original, and this will be my third wrestling reference of the night. But how well did the not Razor Ramon do?
Yeah, and the big thing that they need to remember is that with each new generation, you're getting diminishing returns, because everyone was talking about Niji during Lazulite, Obsidia, Theria, and even through Luxion because of the rampant success of guys like Vox Akuma and that. But as early as Noctix, that started to die off.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even realize that there's now 8 generations of Niji.
Yep.
Some people don't even realize there were 2 more groups, Crisis and Triple T, that came out in the last year that you probably haven't even heard of. I've never seen clips of them.
I've never seen clips of them. That's true.
Yeah.
I would like to make a little modification to your statement, though, Monk. People do not care about a company that does not care about its people. It is very clear, looking at HoloLive and Cover Corp, that not only do the fans care about the talent, that's for sure. Everybody's got their Oshi, everybody's got their favorite collabs, everybody's got their favorite songs, everybody's got their favorite skits, everybody's got their favorite hologram. But just as much as that, everybody loves Yujin A, everybody loves Yago, everybody loves management, Manetan. Everybody loves the staff because the staff care and the staff support the talents. So my modification is nobody cares about the company if the company doesn't care about the talent.
All I gotta mention is one name, and you can see how clearly that statement is true. A-chan.
Yes. Yes. Yujin A, the first staff member besides Yago who actually got to basically just be a character without being a VTuber.
So she has a model. She is a VTuber.
Not what I mean, and you know it, John. God damn it.
Point still stands, sir.
You are okay. Fine. We'll do this the right way. You are technically correct. The best kind of correct. Exactly. I'll give you that one, John. I'll give you that one. But I'll then rephrase it to: she's not one of the talent.
She's not one of the official talents, but she has everything else aside from that.
And so does the newbie that helps her out from time to time.
Yeah.
but that in and of itself shows that the staff is involved in such a way that the talent can even play off of them. Like when Kobo did a rain dance and then, well, Echan got soaked inside the offices somehow. Thank you, Hollow Graffiti. Never change.
Nope.
Also, apparently Hollow Graffiti counts officially as anime because it's on Mal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it meets all the qualifications. And if CG anime is a legit thing now, yeah, by all accounts, Hollow Graffiti is an anime.
Mm-hmm.
Side note: Why is Char trending?
I have no idea. Though the whole what counts as an anime, and I can't help but get reminded of when we were asked, does a hot dog count as a sandwich? The answer is no.
It's a taco.
No, the answer is no, because they said a hot dog, not a hot dog in a bun.
See, I had to set him up for that because that's what I said the last time to set him up for that.
Yeah. But I think overall the if there's anything to take from the whole affair, it's that it's important to establish trust in any business, whether
Absolutely.
whether that be a business involving commerce or a business involving entertainment. Now, part of the reason I keep watching and laughing at the state of Disney is because all of their woes are completely preventable. Much like all of the woes we see with Nijisanji were completely preventable. And the professional term for this kind of thing is unforced error.
We've mentioned them before.
Mm-hmm. So many. I'd say a good amount of the fuck ups that we see in the business world could be considered that kind of unforced error. That kind of mistake that is certainly made, but does not need to happen, and could have been preventable. There's plenty of mistakes in business that are less so, but that's not always the case, and usually those are act of God kind of situations. But as things go forward, if they don't shape up, a lot of the smaller corps are gonna start grabbing that talent.
Absolutely.
As Napoleon is attributed with saying, and this is one of my favorite quotes, and I know some of you are annoyed when I say it, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Never interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake. And there are plenty of mistakes that this company has made. Now then, that's going to wrap it up for this particular episode. And Cress is back right as we're about to wrap up. Jeez, what a talk about timing.
Timing as always.
Yeah. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking with OKS DM on his Sagas RPG, now that that's fully kickstarted, especially since there's been some updates and I had a hand in at least one of them. Tuesday I'm going to be talking with 13th Moon Games because they're releasing their first expansion to their Covenant Crucible game. Wednesday I'll be talking with Gavin the GM on his project Glitch City Uprising. Basically taking Blades in the Dark and going cyberpunk. Thursday, I'll be covering Ritual with Monarch for Valley of the Judged. Friday, will of course still be Valley of the Judged. This time with Zan, we'll be doing what we had planned on doing last week. It's just that I was not in the best condition for that. I didn't have any problems keeping warm through all the winter stuff, but whenever there's a massive season change, it messes with my energy.
Mm-hmm.
So on Friday we will be finally starting Dames of Astoria, and it always makes me laugh when people thought that game was a shitpost. Well, it is a shitpost, just a shitpost that's actually playable. Saturday I'll be talking with Jacob Dirksen, and of course later on that same day, will be the one shot for Cloister the Dice, with us covering the Blood from God's Eye module from Lone Wolf Fists. Next Sunday, I will be putting up an interview with Tin Hat Games because they reached out to me. Because apparently I have way too many Italian friends. And of course, next week will be the return of GeekWatch. And let me see what we've got down the for that one. So for that one, we're doing that reconstruction that I had initially planned for this week, but called an audible.
Yep.
So as Yoshi P would say, please look forward to it. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra, I am your gaming monk, and join the watch.